Life is just so busy. And even if it means part of this process of doing the castor oil packs is just taking some time out for you. I think people say to me, it feels like it's a hug, like you put the pack on them, it's just a hug. And you're just prioritizing yourself and putting time aside for you. And I think just taking that step, never mind all the other things that's happening, that can only be a good thing.
Welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast with me, Rebecca Wilson. An embodied experiential space for you to drop deep into the wealth of wisdom within your being and activate a fuller, richer you. I am a feminine awakener, thought leader, embodied business doula, sacred business midwife, healer, and all-round medicine woman. I am here to guide women deeper into their essence and power, to activate their life force, awaken pleasure, and support them to live an embodied life. I will help you birth your visions, dreams, creations, desires, and sacred business into the world from an easeful, embodied, and rooted place within. My work supports women to become more available for life, love, relationship, connection, creation, pleasure, and wealth. I will activate you into self-leadership and self-mastery to truly live an embodied and awakened life. Welcome on the journey, my love. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Embodied Woman podcast. Today, I am joined with Alison. Alison is the founder of Castor Vida, and she's a nutritional and holistic therapist. So welcome, my love. It's so good to have you here.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So we connected on the good old world of Instagram.
Yes.
And yeah, I'd seen your product, your castor oil, and ordered some for myself and started using it. Really loved the ethos of your brand and how it's eco and all natural, plastic free. It was just a really big point for me. I'd done quite a bit of research actually into different oils and different packs, and there's so many out there, but I really couldn't find one that was natural, organic, good for the environment, good for me. And so when I found you, I was like, yay. And then we connected, and yeah, through using the oil, I really had such a big journey with it and still do with myself, and decided that I'd love for us to partner together and for me to be able to share it with my community and all the women that are in my world and that I work with. So here we are. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But tell us a little bit about you and your journey. How did you get here?
So I'm South African. I've been in the UK now for 17 years, and I moved here for love. I've always been mad passionate about health and well-being. And when our little boy was getting ready for school, I was contemplating where I was going and what I was going to do with my life, my time. And I didn't want to just do a job for the sake of doing it. And then I just thought, let me properly go into it. I found a course I liked. It was a naturopathic course. So I dabbled a bit in there. Then learned a little bit about castor oil, but the seed wasn't planted then. Then did a 3-year diploma in nutritional therapy and learned a bit about castor oil there as well. But I think I really came to discover castor oil when I discovered colonics. So in my first year of studying nutrition therapy, I did a seminar course, and I chatted to somebody, and she was a nutritional colonic hydrotherapist. And I was just fascinated by it and chatted to her, and she recommended I read a book, and it just made so much sense to me for linking the colonics with nutritional therapy. So I became qualified in colonics, but it was in the colonics really that I learned loads more about castor oil and castor oil packing. And that's when I started doing the castor oil packs. But then there wasn't anything really available. You could get the castor oil and you could get some packing fabric. And I did it. It was very messy and very faffy. I had to really put time aside to do it. And I never did it with the cling film though. It just didn't sit well with me that I would put plastic with oil. So it was just messy. And then in clinic, I would try and tell my clients it's great for constipation, great for bloating, great for hormone balancing, liver detoxing. And they'd be interested. But then I told them the process of it. And they were like, ain't nobody got time for that. It was just too messy, too fiddly. And so I just thought, how am I going to get this product out there? How am I going to make it more accessible? And I wasn't fortunate enough, but it was over lockdown where I had time. So I played around with it, ordered some fabric. I knew from the onset I wasn't going to compromise on the quality. So it had to be all organic. It had to be natural. It had to be the best castor oil I could find. It always had to be in a glass bottle. And it just organically fell into place. I started talking to people and one person recommended one thing and it's all just organically grown to where it is now.
What a gorgeous journey. It feels like
been the best journey ever. It's been amazing, really. Like you always hear people saying, oh, like starting a business is stressful. There's been stress, there has been stress. But it's just been fun. Like I'm learning loads. So much. Like I know all about the health benefits and all the health side of things, but running a business is completely different.
Yeah. Need extra castor oil packs when you run a business. De-stressing.
Definitely.
I know about that. Yeah. It sounds like the stars just aligned, right? It's very cliche. There's a gap in the market. That's a very mental place to exist from. But there was that. It sounds like that gap was there for something to arrive like this. There was a space for a product that considered everything. And I did some castor oil packs many years ago with that whole FAFI process. And I remember it's saying about the cling film. I can't actually remember if I did it. I probably didn't. I don't even like cling film, actually. I don't like to have it in the house. I don't use it for anything like cooking or in the kitchen. I thought that's very strange, like wrapping all this plastic round. I think I would soak the cloth in the oil and then put loads of towels on top.
Towels.
And then, don't move, don't spill anywhere, get straight in the bath. And then I think similar possibly to your clients, I just thought, oh, that is very faffy and time consuming and messy and possibly didn't do it enough to stick with it to even feel the benefits, to realize that the benefits would outweigh that whole process. So just put it down to the side and never really.
And that's what I've hear loads of people say. We've done a few conferences and exhibitions and people say, oh, I did it years ago, but it was so messy and faffy. I'd never stuck with it.
Yeah. Because the oil itself, because of its properties, it's very thick and gloopy.
It's a thick oil, yes.
Yeah, so that in itself is just like sticky, and it's funny thinking back now to just like carnage lying on my bed. Oh my God, there's oils everywhere. I actually found one of the old bottles from a different brand because your brand wasn't around then. And I thought, oh yeah, I did used to do that, but it was just so messy, and just put it to the side. And then of course, when I was still telling people about it, still telling my clients actually the benefits of it. And I have it always in all of my online courses and programs. There's a little section in like body and womb and detox pathway supports, and castor oil is one of those processes. But then, of course, I wasn't really doing it myself. And then when I found you, I was like, yes, okay, wonderful. And then I guess more committed practice to it this year, the start of this year, and then onwards into the year. And we were chatting briefly, wasn't we, a second ago before we came on the podcast. And I was saying like, wow, it's been such a big journey for me. Like with everything, I have this very habitual pattern of maybe doing a bit too much too soon. I think we all, don't we? Want to be like yesterday, like just detox everything now and then it'll be over. It doesn't quite like
get
that.
it over and done with.
No, so I was possibly putting way too much oil on and left it on a little bit too long the first couple of times that I did the pack, but quickly learned because I was definitely having some detox symptoms from my liver and my gut. But the biggest process for me, actually, when I used it once on my womb, I could really feel like my ovaries in that cycle. Wow, they were just like, it was almost like they'd been encased in something, trapped in this like hard wall, or literally like an egg, actually, like a shell.
Yeah.
And like pulsing, and I could feel this like breaking down of this stuff that had been wrapped. I'm also visualizing now like vines like wrapped around them, like vines in nature wrap around and like constrict them. So that was an interesting like somatic experience for me. And the thyroid pack, sharing, and popped some on my neck and on my thyroid gland, because I definitely had been and still am on a bit of a journey of healing that space as I'm studying with the RCP protocol at the moment. And through this remineralizing journey, I had, and we'd been given little bits of information, and I realized that, oh, maybe my thyroid isn't working so optimally because I couldn't sweat. I found it really interesting. Like I never sweated, or or when I would have to be in a sauna for ages before I broke sweat.
Okay.
And I also had this like real aversion to sweating. It was like I could feel the sweat coming up from underneath my skin, and I wouldn't let it come out of the skin, because the detox pathways in my body were obviously super blocked, right? That is the sign of a lymph imbalance and a thyroid imbalance. So I knew when I put the castor oil pack on my throat, it was like, something's going to go on here. It's definitely a weaker zone for me. Wow, it was such an emotional process. There was so much coming out. So many tears I never even realized, but they could really feel that they just lived in my throat. It was such a strange process. So many things that I needed to voice and express and say. I was having to book in with my therapist and be like, I need to process some of these things. What's going on? Speak to my partner, speak to my family members, talk to my friends, because it was just like, oh, all these things that I hadn't really spoken up about or spoken about myself or shared or expressed, I'd just swallowed them down.
Suppressed it.
Yeah. And we think when we do that it just disappears, but it doesn't. It was all stored in my body. And it felt like this tiny doorway in my throat that just opened to this portal of like stuff. I just couldn't believe it. And there was like restrictions and tightness and all these things going on. And then all of a sudden, the journey changed a little bit after maybe a month or so of doing it. And I started to feel like super strong at being able to voice myself. It's just been fascinating. And it was quite interesting in my relationships, in my external world, because all of a sudden, when people would pass a comment or say something where I would be more passive and just like, okay, just... But actually, I don't agree with that. Or that isn't okay for me. Or this needs to change now. So there was a real awkward time frame where everyone's, oh, what's happened to Rebecca?
Everybody's adjusting.
And my partner is so great and supportive. And he was like, I'm really celebrating and loving that you're voicing more, but it is a little bit... It's a little bit scary what's going on, but also I'm here for it, because he likes to know where he is. And so when I'm not communicating, it makes him feel more uncomfortable, or I guess more on edge, because he's what's going on. But when I'm just like, no, that's not okay, it might be a bit jarring and I might have to think about what I'm doing, but at least I know where I
am.
So he was like really celebrating this, like, Rebecca's finding a voice. It was this funny couple of months. And even not just things between him and I, but things that were happening in my life, I would normally just be, oh, that doesn't really matter, not really here. And they always had all these thoughts and opinions. So a little shift in the family dynamic, but it all smoothed out. And now there's just so much more space, like emotionally, in my body and in my throat. It's quite remarkable. Yeah. And that really just encouraged me then to reach out and just say, like, I was loving your products and I'd love to be able to work together and be able to share with all of the women that are in my world and in my courses and my communities. And we collaborated and we were able to offer those beautiful products to all the women. But I get so many questions around the castor oil. What is it? What's its benefits? Why would we do it? So I really wanted us to, have this conversation and this space for you to be able to explain that to us.
Yes. So castor oil is very different to other oils in that it's molecularly, it's different because it's got racinoleic acid. Racinoleic acid makes it much heavier, which allows it to be absorbed much deep into the bloodstream where it gets absorbed. So because of that, it has all these amazing properties. Another thing it also does is the oil mimics the anti-inflammatory molecules in the body. So it makes it really anti-inflammatory. So any pain, it is amazing. Like, people can't believe. I've had strangers that I don't even know email me and say, I've had horrendous knee pains for years. I put a tiny bit on and the pain's just gone. Hip pain, back pain, period pains, any pain, because of the anti-inflammatory nature of the castor oil, it is amazing for that. But then it also helps stimulate smooth muscle contraction. So that's for constipation. Your colon is a smooth muscle, so it helps to stimulate the contractions and push food and waste along the colon. Same for uterus. Uterus is a smooth muscle, allows contraction. That's why we can't use it when we're pregnant, because it can stimulate contractions and bring on labor. But yes, so it's an oil. It comes from India. And obviously with all oils, you get different forms of oil. I really wanted it to be cold pressed to keep as many benefits as possible, had to be organic, and hexane free. So hexane is a compound that they use in the motor industry, because they use castor oil for so many uses, but it is used in the motor industry, and hexane is something that they use. So I had to be hexane free. Castor oil is used in over 700 cosmetic products. So it's used without us even knowing that it's there. It's been around for centuries and centuries. But like we said, it's quite thick, and it can stain. So yeah.
And generally the packs are applied to the liver, the gut, the belly, the womb, the thyroid. But of course you can pack anywhere, right? Like you say, if somebody has a knee pain. So I think it really became popularized because of the liver detox properties. So if you place it over your liver, which is on the right side, and it's always hard when you're looking at a camera because it's reversed what I'm doing. So if I'm doing my reels, I have to put it on the other side because so people can like it's on my right side. Yeah, so that's why so it's on your right side of your like rib area. But it's amazing for liver detoxification, supporting detoxification in the body. Our liver does so much, and we throw so much at this poor liver, but amazing to support liver detoxification. Also, the liver helps to detoxify estrogen, so really good for hormone balancing as well as liver detoxing while you're doing that. So placed over the liver, but then over your abdomen for constipation, bloating, over your womb area for any hormonal imbalances, lower back, kidneys. But then then the smaller pack we've created, we launched with the regular pack, and then we brought out the mini pack, and that you put over your thyroid, but also smaller areas in the body where the big one is just a bit too cumbersome. So wrist, ankles, knees, over your eyes, because it's great for eyelashes, eyebrows. But the oil is also really good for hair, like really good for conditioning your hair, doing like a hair mask. But even skin conditions, people think, oh, it's too thick and too oily. You don't need a lot. You can just put a little bit in with your moisturizer. It's just incredible it's so nutrient rich. But then also if there's any scars or anything like that, any acne, it's amazing for that. Yeah. Would it be also good for a C-section scar to support that?
Beautiful, that.
Yeah.
There's so much contradictory advice out there on the internet. We have stayed on the side of caution just with regards to breastfeeding, and that we don't recommend it with breastfeeding.
Yeah.
So if somebody has a C-section scar and they are breastfeeding, it is a bit tricky. Just there's lots of information to say that it's safe, but we've just said not to use it if you're breastfeeding. But it is amazing because it breaks down any scar tissue. So that's why it is really good.
Yeah, the body is in such a big process anyway, breastfeeding, and also not to use the oil whilst menstruating. You can use it before, leading up to your cycle, and then after, but not when you're actually bleeding. And again, it's just such a big process. We don't recognize in our culture, do we? Like, bleeding is such a big process. Breastfeeding, huge process.
Huge, yes.
It takes so much from the body, and although using the castor oil pack would be supportive, it can also be, might we say, a detoxification. And whenever the body's in that state of detox, it requires a lot of energy. And so it has to take energy from somewhere else to do that process. So it's going to take it from the process of your menstruation or the process of your feeding and your milk. So it's just about doing the practice at the right time.
Yeah, there's lots of evidence to say that it helps with mastitis or anything like that. So if you're going to do that and you're breastfeeding, then I would just say, like, separate, make sure there's a few hours between a feed, and make sure that you're cleaning your nipple, because we don't know how it's going to affect the baby, and it might just be too strong for a baby. So make sure you're cleaning your breast if you've got mastitis and you are still feeding and you want to do it.
Yeah. It's also really supportive for women that are on the journey of fertility.
Oh, hugely. Yeah. Massive. Yes. We have a few affiliates that are fertility nutritional therapists, and they will recommend it as part of their protocol.
Yeah.
It increases the blood flow to your uterus. It's just, yes, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I've really found a shift in my womb and my cycles. And to begin with, it was that kind of that roller coaster, because there was a couple of cycles where I was like, wow, this is intense, or the blood flow was a bit heavier, or the cramping was a little bit strong. But I think that's part of that process. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it can also, I think people often think, oh, I'll use this, and we expect things to work immediately. Like, it takes 3 months for your hormones to get back into a normal cycle. So we've got to stick with things and see it through, and see it working with the body, supporting the body, seeing as part of the support for the body. Yeah. As part of the healing process.
Yeah. And I found to begin with that I definitely needed more space in between the packs. And I would just do them maybe once a week or twice a week, spaced out. Now that my body is made possibly a little bit more in flow, and the lymph is moving, and the thyroid's more balanced, and I definitely have a better digestive tract and more bowel movements, I'm able to do the pack 3 times a week and feel okay. And so I often get asked that question, like, how often? And we say, like, less is more to begin with. Let your body get used to it, build it up, and just be really curious and stay intuitive, because the body will tell us when we need it. Now I can just feel in my own body. Yeah. And we were speaking briefly as well. I was sharing about on the training with the RCP, we talk a lot about when the calcium is leached from the bones because the system is lacking magnesium, which we're all magnesium deficient. And so the body takes calcium from the bones to try and do the magnesium's job, which of course it can't, because that's not its job. So it's floating around the system. So it looks for places in which it can wrap itself around, and it begins to calcify things. And they are often places like the thyroid, the lymph, ovaries, all these parts of these detoxification pathways of the system. People get calcification all over. But particularly in these pathways that are the smooth muscle and the muscle that wants to just rest and flow, and similar to the lymph, that energy of the lymph, which is very much that smooth flowing process. Yeah. And so the castor oil also supports that decalcification, that shell, that hard shell that's wrapped around different parts of us and different organs, and starts to break the shell down and allow everything to become more supple and soft within.
Yeah. I suppose that's also with the scar tissue, what's happening there just helps to break that down. Any surgery, I always say to people, put that on. But it's also helping with breaking that down, helping the lymph flow, getting the blood flow to the area. All of those things are so important for the healing.
Yeah. Yeah, because they say magnesium is the mineral of expansion or relaxation, and calcium is the mineral of contraction. Yeah. So we would need to test for people, anyone who's interested in that, you would need to test and work out what your ratios were. But if we're deficient in the magnesium, the calcium comes out, and then it just starts to contract and create this hard shell inside of us, these calcification shells. And the castor oil really supports like you say, the softening and the lubrication and the breaking down of that, with the blood flow to it. And we begin. And that's where those emotional processes were happening. It's like these hard calcified places that had built walls and shells around were like breaking down and opening, and like life was flowing again. And life is all of those things, including lots of emotion.
Yeah, but it's all part of that, the releasing. And I mentioned before we started this that some people say about the dreams that they're having, either over their thyroid or on their or over the liver. they're having crazy dreams, but that's also things that they're processing and starting to let go.
Yeah, that subconscious state of our dream time where everything that we've shoved into the dark kind of matter of our psyche that doesn't get processed or thought about in waking moments has an opportunity to move its way through in the dream time. So yeah, wherever that's stored in the body, if it is in those places, it'll start to come out.
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It is just amazing. And it's making a huge comeback now. We've been going nearly 2 years now, but when we first started, you could get the castor oil and some packing, but fabric. But no, now you're seeing more and more people are aware of it. Or one of the conference we did, people came to us and they were Indian and they were like, oh my goodness, they've known about this and they've used it for so long. And they just like, it's just great that it's all coming out and coming back because it's been around for thousands of years.
Yeah, these ancient practices and traditions and rituals that, just getting back to that old way to support ourselves through herbs and oils and nature and plants and nutrient-dense food and proper nutrition and all of the things that we lost in the modern world are just coming back. And I think now more than ever, we really need that. We need support. Our bodies need support. We're loaded with life and all of the toxic matter, and we're overloaded with our emotions that we're not processing. And so, bringing in these practices are just a really supportive way of nurturing and nourishing the body.
I think we're just so busy. Life is just so busy. And even if it means part of this process of doing the castor oil packs is just taking some time out for you. I think people say to me, it feels like it's a hug, like you put the pack on them and it's just a hug. And you just prioritizing yourself and putting time aside for you. And I think just taking that step, never mind all the other things that's happening, that can only be a good thing.
Yeah. Just giving yourself that time, that like you say, that nourishment and that support. Beautiful.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing with us.
That's all right. It's been lovely.
Yeah, I'll for anyone who's interested in the castor oil and the packs, I'll pop all the links in the show notes of this episode. So they'll all be there. And there's also a discount code there for you, which you can use. And where can people find you?
Our website, is www.castorvida.co.uk. Facebook, it's just Castor Vida. Instagram is Castor Vida. So,
Wonderful. I'll pop those links as well in the show notes. So everyone who's listening can get them and they can connect with you and step into your world. And
perfect. Yes. Any questions, always welcome. There's lots of information on the website. There's me doing loads of crazy reels on Instagram.
Little how to wash, how to take care of your pack,
where to place it, and all those stuff things.
There's loads of information there. Gorgeous. Thank you for being with us and sharing your time. Much. And thank you all for listening, and we'll speak to you, be in connection together soon. Thank you for joining me on this journey today. If you loved this musing and sharing, I would love for you to share this episode far and wide. You can arrive into all of my offerings at rebecca-wilson.com. Links to dive deeper with me are in the episode notes. Remember, my love, you are here to be the fullest, most potent, powerful, embodied version of you. I am here to guide you into that. Hey love, I'm dropping in here to welcome you to join us in our online community membership, The Village. I created this space for women to gather, to return to themselves, to deepen the connection and the relationship with self, whilst held in a community of like-minded women walking the journey and the path of their own awakening.